Well, I hope this video finds everyone doing well. I'm going to try to make this quick, even though it seems I tend to drag these things out sometimes. This video is going to be on my laser, and I want to discuss real quickly a jig that I made and how it could be handy for others. Many of you, if you've watched my Instagram or follow me in other social media, know I've been busy making lots and lots of these ornaments. And part of this ornament process is to actually take two layers, a back and a front, and then glue them together. And one of the things that's a challenge is getting this alignment perfect, because once this 3M tape or super glue, if you're using that, hits the thing, once it settles a little bit, it's hard to move. And I find lots of times that my glue up will be just a little bit off, more than I would appreciate if I was getting an ornament. So sometimes I have to throw it away. So you have to be very, very careful. So my son-in-law challenged me to make a jig that would allow me to not have that issue. Basically just put the ornament inside the jig. And so that's what I set about to do. So that jig looks like this, and I basically just put up the backing in there, and it's holding in there, and then I put this piece on there, and it goes on there perfectly every single time. So that's what I'm going to show you, and I'm going to talk about how I did it. I've been making earrings and other things where I've had to use inlays, so I had a kind of an idea of what the offset might be, and that means the amount I'm going to have to cut for the kerf. And if that's not well understood, I can cover that in another video sometime. But basically, just like the saw blade, the laser has a kerf, and when I cut a hole, out of this piece, or what's going to be my test piece out of a piece here, the difference between the hole, the way that fits in there, and the other one is the size of the kerf. And you can see how this piece just slides through there. Hopefully you can see that on this camera. So that would be too loose for me to use for a jig. I need it to fit nice and snug so that I don't get it off alignment. So I needed to find out what size my kerf offset, meaning how much did I have to make the hole, how much did I have to make this hole less big to make up for the kerf that was taken out of there. I hope that makes sense. So I did this test piece right here, and you can see on this test piece, I hope, this was the original hole, so I put down here that this is original 20 millimeters. And then I marked below each of the kerfs how much my offset was. So I had one that was minus 0.2 millimeters, minus 0.19 millimeters, and minus 0.21 millimeters. Because of previous earrings and things I've made, I knew that my kerf offset would be somewhere around that area. So that's what I started with. So what I did was I pulled out a test card. Let's come over here, and I'm not going to need to use all of those. I'm going to get rid of these over here. Now, this is my library over here that I have various jigs and tests in, and that's my kerf offset. And all I did was take this one here, and I arranged it in four circles, just like that. That's what you're seeing on here, those four circles. I took and I moved this and put it in the middle, because I want to be able to read it after I cut it out, because I don't want to get confused about which piece is my original piece. So think of this as the center piece of the ornament. So that's representing this piece of the ornament. The other holes will represent the hole that I'm cutting here. So now I'm going to go in here and I want to look at my first one. Let me look at what this is. And I can come over here and you can see that's this line right here. And I'm going to move that up. So it's the first thing I cut. And that's really just a single line font that I'm going to write right inside of that hole, so that when I cut it out, I know which piece is the original piece. Then I'm going to take these, and I'm going to, oops, I didn't mean to grab the whole thing. Let me put a little more separation here. And I'm going to separate out these so that I can move the text. This is just text that I want to keep so that when I do my test board, I know how much everything is. Alright, so now I've got these rearranged. The next thing I need to do is I need to change the text in each of them. And so this top one, I'm going to make it, what did I say on my board here? 0.2. I'm not changing it yet. All I'm doing is changing the text. I'm going to make this one 0.21. And I use millimeters when I'm doing these offsets because it's easier for me. And I'm going to use this one 0.19. Alright, so those are going to be the offsets. In reality, I know they're minuses, so I should probably put that on there, but I'm not going to bother because I'm trying to get this done quickly. So let's go through each one of these. So the first one is this cut right here. So if I right click here, you can see it's that hole right there. And that's original 20 millimeters, and I do not want any offset. So I'm going to open that up, and you see right now the kerf offset is set at minus 0.17. I don't want any. So I'm going to put down 0. I'm change that. So now just to validate, it's come over here. It's 0. All right. And for this 1/4 inch plywood, I'm going to use a speed of 15 and a power of 60 on my laser. So the next one on here is this one right here, and I'll right click it. And so that's this circle right here, and I want to do the next one with the 0.2, so I'm going to move that up in priority just because that's what I want to do. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and take that one, and I can use a 60-60, that'll be fine. I could change it to 65 actually. Let me do that to make sure it cuts through all the way. Alright, now that I want to be 0.2. So I'm going to put in a kerf offset here. It's no longer 0. I'm going to put in 0.2. Now, notice it says outward. So that would mean if I'm cutting this circle, that the kerf is going to move out. In other words, the hole is actually going to get bigger. And I don't want it to get bigger. I want it to get smaller. So that's what that outward tells me. It's going to move out from the cut. Because on the laser, it cuts right on the line. So it's going to move outward. I want it to move inward. So to make it move inward, I'm going to hit minus, put a minus there, and you see how that switches to inward. Hit OK. So now this kerf is actually going to be 0.2 millimeters inward. So the laser is going to cut 0.2 millimeters in of this line, making the hole actually smaller. So the next one is this one right here, 0.19. So I'm going to open that up. And remember, I want to make it smaller, so I'm going to put minus 0.19. You see it says inward. Hit OK. And now this hole will be 0.19. The bigger you go, the more it's going to impact it. So this one's going to be almost close. It's going to be closer to the 20 millimeters. So it's going to be looser. And so I know that in the past, let me get over here. I don't know how it went to text, but I did something. I know in the past that my kerf offset for these kind of things is right around 0.2. So I'm just going to surround it and see what it turns out to be. And this one here, I want to make 0.21. So that's this one right here, as you can see. So I'm going to take this one, and I've got minus 0.21 already in there. And I'm going to make this 65. And I'm going to go ahead and make this 65. Enter. And I'm going to come back up to this one, and I'm going to make 65 and 65. Okay, now I've got this thing set up to cut. I didn't record it cutting. You don't really need to see it, but what it's going to do is it's going to cut out these kerf holes. And once it cuts out the kerf holes, then I'm going to go ahead and measure that little piece that I showed you before and see how it fits. So when I measured it, here's the piece. When I measured this, as expected, the original hole, it's loose. It's too loose. And for a template, you can see it wiggles around, and I'd have the opportunity to get the alignment on the ornaments off just slightly, and I didn't want that. So the next one I went to was 0.2, and 0.2 is actually fits pretty good, but it's a little snug. Then I went to 0.19, and it seemed like it was going to be the perfect fit. So that's what I started with. I started with 0.19, and then when I did the first test, I found that it was a little bit tight, and I ultimately ended up going to a kerf offset of negative 0.17. And that's primarily I think due with the size of the geometry for this jig. So I did that, and now let me show you how I'm using that jig. All right, I'm back. I'm using that 3M adhesive, so I just pulled that off the back, so now it's all glued, ready to go, and it'll almost instant glue the minute it touches in an area. So you want to get it lined up with the template, nice and close like that. Then push it down in there. Push real good. And then I just push it through. And I've got a perfect alignment. What do you think? Well, I hope you found that information. Some of you found that information helpful on how you might be able to make a jig yourself when you're trying to glue things up. It's I've already glued up 5 or 6 ornaments, and there's no problem at all with alignment. It's going to work perfect. And I've already done over 30 to 50 ornaments, and I've got over 100 left I've got to do, and orders keep coming in. I keep those ornaments, that style of ornament, all at the same size, and I have a perfect jig. Makes it real easy, and I don't have to worry about getting it perfectly aligned. It aligns itself every single time. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like it with a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, I'd appreciate you subscribing. I make instructional videos and share projects on both my CNC, which has been my primary shares in the past, and on my laser. My laser is my new topic that I'll be sharing information on, and if you like laser information, and if you subscribe, you will get both my CNC and my laser information tutorials as I release them. I hope you're having a great day. I enjoy doing this, and I'm trying to get it up to the point where it's actually monetized, and I might make a couple extra bucks from it. So it would be really helpful if you show activity by making a comment or like, and even better if you subscribe. Remember, subscribe to the channel, and thank you very much. Until we meet again in this medium, you have a terrific day.